Okay, I'm going to start with the lavender because that's a fairly simple one. I first take a minute and I looked at the flower and see what the structure is. In this case, there's one long stem, little clusters of purple flowers, kind of two-tone, light and dark purple, towards the top, and then some leaves, kind of long, skinny leaves, not too long, coming out in clusters near the bottom. So I'm going to start. Lavender foliage is sort of a grayish green. I have here a color I had already mixed. I used some green and I threw just a dab of brown into it to kind of tone it down, or a little black, even a touch of purple. We don't want it to be a bright green. So I got that color going there. I'm using a pretty decent sized brush, but I'm going to use just the tip of it. And I'm going to get that main stem in, just like that. It's very light, but that's all I want right now. Clean my brush. Now I want some purple. The purple you see is also not real bright. I think I had mixed this earlier here. I used a violet out of my tray, and I might have thrown just a touch of blue into it. Maybe I didn't, but it looks like it needs a touch of blue, so I'll throw some in now. Yeah, that's sort of more of a lavender shade. So the way I did those petals was just with one stroke. I have, pretty much paint on my brush, and just like that, one stroke at a time. Just boom, boom, boom. Just lay the brush down. You notice they're kind of in clusters, smaller at the top. They get a little bigger as they come down. There's some on top of the stem. So I'm just really pushing the brush into like this towards the center. And that's how I'm getting those little flowers. If you find you're running short of paint, get some more on there. You don't want them to be too light. And I think maybe I'll put one more, a little bit more down here. Oops, need more paint. And that's it. You can see there's a big blob of paint there. I'm going to let that dry before I do anything with the darker tone. And then I'm going to go back and get my green. Once again, because the leaves are kind of slender, I want to use a light touch. You notice when I push it down hard on the brush, I get a big blob. When I use a light touch, I'm just using the tip, and I'm just getting like this, the leaves. So that's what I want to do. Maybe a few more here. They seem to be coming like from similar spots on the stem. So that's pretty much it. Now I think my green is a little too pale. I'm going to darken it up just a little. I should have had a darker color when I started. Yeah, that's better. But don't fiddle with it too much. When you fiddle with it too much, you lose that spontaneous look. And then I'm going to let that dry before I go any further. Okay, so now the paint's dry. I'm going to come back in and add some, you can see it looks much lighter. When watercolor dries, it gets lighter. So now I have that nice pastel shade, like the lighter shade in the lavender. I'm using a little bit smaller brush now because I want to go for more detail. That darker purple, I think, is a little bit more of a red purple too. So I'm coming back in here into my pan, and I'm using, and I might actually throw a little bit of this reddish violet into it. But I definitely want it to be darker, so more paint, less water. By using, not straight from the pan, but using one mixed with a little blue and one mixed with a little red, you get much more of a realistic effect than just using the same color throughout. So it looks to me like those tips, those darker tips, are on the end of the blossom. So I'm just going to go in and just going to put a few little tips on the end, like this. Just little dabs here and there, nothing too precise, and that's the end of the flowers. Now, for the leaves, I'm noticing that the underside of the leaves have a little darker shadow, and maybe even a little vein in the middle. And it's even maybe a little bit brighter of a green. So I'm going to go back in with a richer green. Once again, less water, more paint, and just put a little definition on these leaves, like this maybe. I'm keeping it on the underside because that's where the shadow would be. So underneath here. And maybe I need to get a little bit more in here because I kind of lost the stem. Maybe under here there'd be And that's it. That's as far as I'm going to go. I think that is a finished lavender. Of course, when it dries, you'll see it won't look quite as dark as this. Up here you can see it starting to dry. And you have just a two-tone purple, but this is still wet, so it's darker. That's as far as I'm going to go. That's as simple as it's going to be.